Let's be real. We all feel like crap when we start comparing ourselves to others. But here's the deal. We just can't seem to stop doing it. Welcome to Unleash Your Awesome, where we dive into the gritty realities of comparison culture and empower you to stay in your own lane. In today's episode, we're ripping off those rose-tinted glasses and exploring why learning to stay in your own lane isn't just good for your mental health, it's a game changer for your pleasure, career, and finances. Get ready to kick comparison to the curb and unleash the badass within. It's time to take control of your own damn destiny. Challenging negative self-talk is super crucial. It is one of the most important aspects of therapy, and we all have this negative self-talk. A lot of times it's the echoes of maybe critical parents or coaches or past partners, right? But this negative self-talk, a lot of times it sounds like us, it's in our own voice, but like I said, it's more the echoes of these past criticisms that have kind of burned themselves into our brain. So the important part of challenging negative self-talk is to realize that you're doing it. And the key here is to just notice that you're feeling bad. And then a lot of times when we're feeling bad, it's because we're thinking negative thoughts. So once we become mindful of this and recognize like, hey, I'm beating myself up, I'm being negative, that's when we want to take a cleansing breath. I think that works pretty much for everything. And we want to use the stop skill, which is stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed mindfully. This is a DBT skill. It's super helpful for thought blocking. Now, a lot of times when we try to stop our thoughts, it's sort of like trying to stop like a river. It's flowing. It can be hard to stop. Sometimes it can take multiple times to be able to stop that inner dialogue. However, like I said, sometimes if we realize that's not even me in there, that's my critical dad, or that was that coach that was horrible to me, or that was that narcissist boyfriend, whatever, whoever that was, don't let them take up extra airtime in your head. Okay. So we really want to practice, and this is what mindfulness does. It helps us to take control of our mind so that we are not in monkey mind and that our mind's not running us. It's important to replace harsh self-judgments with kind and supportive inner dialogue. One of the things we always say is stop shitting on yourself, which if you sort of say that fast, you understand what that means. But negative judgments can be a way that we really die 1,000 deaths, right? And so instead, we really want to, again, practice that kindfulness, being kind and being mindful together. Let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness has been co-opted by psychology as a really important part of releasing judgments, better mental health, and you know what I'm going to say, pleasure. Mindfulness is really about slowing down. And I feel like this has such a great message for pleasure because a lot of times women are like stoves. They take a lot of time to preheat. And so a lot of times we need to slow down to get into our sensuality. And that's all of what mindfulness is about. It's about connecting with our senses. I'm seeing a beautiful scene of trees and clouds and buildings, and there's cars rushing by. I'm hearing the sounds of the wind wishing and the sounds of my own voice. I can taste the coffee that I just had. I can smell the cookie candle that I've been burning, right? And so whenever we slow down, get out of our head and into our senses, that is the gateway not only to mindfulness, but to pleasure. The biggest piece of mindfulness that I want to share with you is the non-judgment piece. A lot of times we reject our reality. We think this shouldn't be happening. And that keeps us trapped in this struggle cycle. And so when something bad happens, the more we can lean into radical acceptance, mindfulness, slowing down, meditating, getting out of our heads and into our bodies, the more resilience and better outcomes that we'll have. The concept of non judgment is important to cultivating self acceptance and compassion. It's one of the core principles of mindfulness. This really is a through line through of all of therapy and really helps us in the department of self acceptance and self love. When I was working at a treatment center doing DBT, non judgment was the thing that really allowed people to go from victim to survivor. We all have the tendency to be hard on ourselves, and we all have the tendency to judge either positive or negative. There's a really cool research study that was done back in the 70s that looked at physiological arousal. No, I'm not talking about the pleasure arousal. I'm talking about activation. And generally what happens is we tend to look around and think if it's positive or negative and then label it as either excitement or fear. So when I was learning to teach in front of undergrads, we would have classes of 200 to 500 people. And my teaching mentor said to me, convince yourself that the nervousness is excitement. And that's how we turn the mind to non-judgment. So the thing about non-judgment is it actually even encompasses the positive judgments. But if you have to judge, we'll let those positive judgments slip by. It's more the negative judgments that we want to think about. And this really piggybacks on the idea of radical acceptance, where radical acceptance is about taking whatever comes, whether we think of it as good or bad, and just accepting it because it is our reality. And we can fight reality 100% of the time, but we'll always be wrong. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be wrong. And finally, we need to embrace imperfection. I really want to encourage you to embrace your imperfections and recognize that self-improvement does not equate perfection. Sometimes we can be on that self-improvement treadmill and it can feel like we're never good enough. We can also feel like the urge to complete something, even though maybe we don't really want to. So I love to use the affirmation, I do what I want. Now, sometimes we have to adult and sometimes we do have to do the things or there's negative consequences. But if there is that leverage to decide, if I don't want to, I won't. It can be very liberating when we self-prioritize and when we accept ourselves fully, flaws and all. And embracing imperfection fosters greater self-compassion and resilience. I want to encourage you to celebrate your uniqueness. Let me just tell you, as a therapist, I've often asked people to say 5 positive things about yourself. Like, I am cuddly. I am cute. I am soft. I am, what is this, a hamster? I am a hamster. I love myself, right? Not that hard, nothing groundbreaking, right? But I've had so many clients cry and maybe they can get 1 or 2 good ones out before they're like, uh-oh, this is hard. So again, even if it's hard, and it might be, I really want you to start to celebrate yourself because that is a big part of pleasure. It's being free from judgment. Wouldn't that be a nice breath of fresh air? Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-exploration and growth. Remember, comparison is the thief of joy. But by embracing our uniqueness and practicing the mindfulness concept of non-judgment, we can reclaim our pleasure and live authentically. Be sure to tune in next time for more insights and inspiration on how to unleash your awesome and feel good while doing it. Until then, stay true to yourself and embrace the joy that comes from within.